Hey traders, John Fortune here, this week's weekly Forex forecast for the 15th of July to the 19th of July 2019. As always, we're going to start off by looking at the US dollar index and oil before running through a number of markets, looking at the key levels of support and resistance in the process. And we're also going to be highlighting some of the targets that we're going to be looking for in this coming week and also for the weeks ahead. So I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Let's jump over to the charts and see where the money is this week. As always, starting with the US dollar index. Now, last week we were looking for a decline to the downside and we highlighted the 97.39 area, and we did start to get a reversal from this area in the US dollar last week. Very simply put, we're making our way down towards the target set from last week at the 96.40. If we can get a pullback, this is going to give us the opportunity once again this week to start to look for further declines in the US dollar index. And if we get a pullback, possibly if we get a retest of broken support turning resistance at the 97.39, this once again will be a great place to start to look for further declines to the downside in the US dollar index. And we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support on the target highlighted from last week at the 96.40. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside in target 2 and the 95.75. So although we're in an area where we could actually start to go into a range in the dollar index, we are actually going into next week with a bearish bias on the US dollar index. So next market we're going to look at is crude oil. Now last week we had a really nice move to the upside in crude oil, taking out the target set at the 60.65, which was right here. And in fact, this was a trade which we highlighted for our members in the live room last Monday from here all the way up to here. So this was a really fantastic move in crude oil last week. And we are still looking this week for further advances to the upside in crude oil. So very simply put, if we can get a pullback, and as always, preferably if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance turning support, as this gives us better risk to reward to the target. If we can get a pullback, and preferably, as I say, towards the 57.78, this is going to be a great place again next week to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside in the target set at the 62.21. So next market we're going to look at is euro dollar. Now last week we highlighted 1.1212 for everybody as the place where we're going to start to look for a bounce to the upside. We did get this bounce to the upside. We got this reversal in euro dollar. So very simply put, for anybody not already involved from last week, if we can get a pullback, and you see we're starting to correct already back towards the 1.1212, but any deeper correction will be great next week as it will give us better risk to reward towards the target. But any pullback and possibly even another retest of the 1.1212, this next week is going to provide us once again with a fantastic opportunity to start to look for bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside in the target set from last week, the 1.1342. So next market we're going to look at is pound dollar. Now, as you can see, the pound dollar is actually still structured to the downside, even though we're looking for further declines in the US dollar from resistance. So we are still looking for a potential reversal in the pound dollar at the 1.26610. But if we get that weakening of the US dollar index to the downside, what we're likely to see coming up for this week is a deeper correction in the pound dollar up towards the 1.26610. So this is the potential move we're looking at in the pound dollar this coming week. And then coming into the following week, that is when we may get a bounce in the dollar index, which leads to a rollover in the pound dollar to the downside from the 1.26610. So we are going to be focused on other pairs apart from the pound dollar going into next week. But as the pound dollar is structured, we're going to be looking for this deeper correction going towards the 1.26610 this week in the pound dollar. And when we tag the 1.26610, and this may be the week after next, if we start to get that reversal, this is going to be an area we're going to start to look for further declines in the pound dollar. And we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside in the target set at the 1.2405. If you are focused on dollar weakness going into next week, then there's nothing wrong with skipping the pound dollar next week altogether. So next market we're going to look at is US dollar Japanese yen. Now last week we highlighted the 107.86 as an area to look for a pullback in the US dollar yen. Again, like the pound dollar, these are the two currencies going into this week that are structured counter to the dollar weakness that we're seeing in the dollar index. Now a lot of people, they get frustrated and they say, oh, well, you know, if the dollar index is going down, why are you looking for advances in, say, the US dollar yen? And a lot of people just skip it altogether. But actually, we prefer this when we have one or two currencies going against the grain, because it gives us a plan B. It gives us an opportunity to make money if the original devaluation of the US dollar index next week doesn't take place. So very simply put, we are looking at this, what we call with our members a plan B currency, which essentially, if we do not get that sell-off from resistance, if we do not get a further decline to the downside in the dollar index and we start to range, for example, like this will be our go-to currency. If all of the other currencies are failing to show that weakness in the dollar index, this will be our go-to currency next week, which we will look at. And we'll be looking at the area where we're sitting right now to see if we can get those bullish reversal patterns to the upside. And if we do get those bullish reversal patterns in this area, this is going to be an opportunity for us to start to look for further advances to the upside. Again, as I say, either as a plan B currency or as a synthetic hedge against some of the other markets that we're looking at. But we're going to be looking at initiating longs next week up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside and the target set at the 109.26. So next market we're going to look at is Aussie dollar. Now last week we highlighted 0.69250 as an area to start to look for further advances to the upside. We had this pull back to 0.69250 and we bounced last week. So very simply put, for anybody not involved from last week, we are looking for further advances to the upside. If we can get a pullback, and preferably as always if we can get a retest, but any pullback in this area, because we may not get a retest of support once again, but any pullback in this area, it's going to give us another opportunity to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside and the target set from last week at the 0.7132. So next market we're going to look at is New Zealand dollar. Now last week we were looking further advances to the upside and we highlighted the 0.6602 for you guys to look for a potential reversal to the upside. We did bounce last week from the 0.6602, so very simply put, we are looking for further advances as well to the upside in New Zealand dollar. For anybody not involved from last week, if we can get a pullback, and as always, the deeper the better because it gives us better risk to reward. But any pullback in this area back towards the key area of support, 0.6602, this is going to provide us once again with a great opportunity to start to look for bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside and the target set from last week at 0.6773. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside and target 2. The 0.6826. So next market we're going to look at is US dollar Swiss franc. Now last week we were looking for a reversal in the US dollar Swiss franc. We didn't quite tag the resistance area, but we did have a tradable reversal pattern to the downside here, and we're starting to make our way now very close to the target set from last week, 0.9814. So very simply put, going into this week, if we can get a break through the key area of support at 0.9814, this will provide us with a great opportunity once again for anybody not involved last week to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 0.9700. So next market we're going to look at is US dollar CAD. Now with the US dollar index rolling over at resistance and the oil price bouncing at support, this is priming the US dollar CAD to the downside very nicely next week. We were last week looking for a reversal in the US dollar CAD. We did get a nice reversal down towards the target set from last week at the 1.2958. So very simply put, for anybody not involved last week, if we can get another pullback, and of course the deeper the pullback the better, as it gives us that better risk reward towards the target. But any pullback in this area is going to be a fantastic opportunity for anybody not involved from last week to once again start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set from last week for the 1.2958. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 1.2886. So next market we're going to look at is gold. Now we've been looking further advances to the upside in gold. You can see we're starting to form a bit of a coiling pattern here in gold. This is indicative of further advances to the upside, especially if we're getting a weaker dollar. What we would like to see going into next week, if we can get a pullback and we can get this multi-week correction to finally finish in gold, any pullback in this area, and as always, preferably if we can come back and retest broken resistance, turning support at the 1356.96, this would be a fantastic place going into next week to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 1480.3. So that is it from me for this week, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let me know by liking, sharing and subscribing. A big thank you to everyone who does that on a regular basis, and a massive thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel so far. I want to wish you all a fantastic weekend, and I hope you all have a profitable week next week. The only thing left for me to say, guys, is take care and don't forget to trade safely.